Hey guys, this is Purna. Today we are going to talk about JSX and styling. Here, basically, we are going to cover JSX code and basic implementation of CSS styling over JSX elements. So here's the table of content for the sessions today. We will learn what is JSX and different way of writing styles in React. We'll talk more about inline style, plain CSS, CSS modules, CSS in JS files. So these are some popular ways of implementing styles in React code. So that we are going to learn in this session. What is JSX? So JSX stands for JavaScript and XML. And JSX allows us to write HTML in React. So basically it is the combination of both JavaScript and HTML. JSX convert HTML text into React elements. With JSX we can write expressions inside curly braces, and whatever we have written inside the curly braces is treated as JavaScript code. And the expression can be React variable, properties, or any other valid JavaScript expression. So here is a code snippet for one of the function component. So here basically we can see this particular line is JSX code, and inside this function component we are returning a HTML element. Basically it is a JS code where we can see the HTML code. Under this HTML code we have written JavaScript code under the curly braces. So this is the way that we are going to write JSX code throughout our React components. So different way of writing styles in React. So there are many ways to styling React component basically. So we are not going to discuss everything, but we will discuss this popular way of writing styles for React components. Okay, so what are those? Like inline styles, then CSS in JS files, plain CSS, the way that traditional way of writing CSS code, and CSS modules way also. Let's come to VS Code. We will explore each of this way of writing styles in the React component. So here is a simple function component home. We will explore this component to writing different way of styles in React. When I'm running this application, I can see this component. It has two HTML element basically that it's showing a header, and the other one it is showing my name is the props that we are passing from the parent component, right? Prop.name. So here we can see, right, it is just showing header, and my name is test user. Basically this test user we are passing as the props from the component. So let's explore on the inline styles part of it. So inline style applied directly to the element, and it also have the higher precedence which override the existing style applied over the HTML elements. So how can I write the styles basically, right? So let me write some styles for this. So we have a props called styles. So under this styles, it's expect a JavaScript object, right? So let me try something writing how we used to write in HTML basically. Let's say font size column 3 rem, okay, and then semicolon. This is what the traditional way we used to write inline style, right? So let me save this and we'll see what is coming off here, right? So here we can see nothing is loading, so there must be some error inside it. So if you go to the console, we can see, so here we can see the error, right? Uncut error, style prop expect a mapping from the styles property to the values. So what does it mean? So the style, we cannot directly write that CSS styles, what is the traditional way we used to write for the inline styles over the HTML. So it's expect a actual mapping element for this the traditional CSS styling line, right? And this style expect a object also, right? So let me remove these things first and convert this as a object way. So now let's see what is happening. So now it is throwing error, right? Because you can see, right, it's not a valid JavaScript object, because you can see like a dash separated word, right? So this should be in a camel case or something like there is no space or no dash separator. So what I will do, like let me remove this and convert this as a camel case and put this in a string, the value. Still we'll see whether the error is going. No, the error is still there. So this is expecting a object and we are just passing it. So what we can do, right, we will pass a object inside it, and there we will pass the CSS style, okay, in the form of proper object mapping. Okay, now save. We'll see whether the outcome came. Yes, now we can see the actual style is applied. Okay, so let's try one more inline style here. Style, so what we will do, like a width or something like max width. $600px. So what exactly I want to do with this changes, right? So I want to keep this content in the center of this page, and it will have a width of 600 pixel. So what I will do, right, padding, or let me do something like margin left, auto, margin right, auto. Okay, let's see whether it is coming. Yes. So now we can see this header or this particular component or container is moved into the center, right? So let's put a background color here also, so that we can have a better visibility. So you can see there is a properties for background color also, and we have to do something like gray. Okay, let me give a gray background and we'll see whether it is applying or not. So here I did some changes. I kept a max width of 600, and the margin left and right is auto, and the background color I changed to gray, so that I can differentiate whether this particular container, whatever I did the inline style changes, it is applicable there or not. So here we can see, right, this particular container is now in the center, and it has a same left or right margin, and it also changed the background color. Okay, so this is how we can write the inline styles in React. Okay. So I just want to move this particular styles into the JS file, and I want to import that JS file as a module and will reuse those styles. Okay, so how can we do that? Let me remove this code first, whatever the styles that I have applied. So now it's become a plain React component, right? So I already written that particular piece of code, so I'll explain you. So here is one set of styles, and if you see, this is a JavaScript object basically, and I am exporting this object as a module. Okay, so what you can see here, right? So inside this particular style subject, I have something called container. This container object hold like font family. I changed the font family to system UI, and the margin left auto and margin right auto, and max width is 600, right? So similarly, I have one more object for header. This contains that styles for the header basically. The font size I kept 3 rem, and font weight is 700, so it will be like a bold kind of font style, and I changed the color like dodge blue, and I also kept one more object for name tiles, and it has a font size of 1 rem or font bold, and the color is dark orange, and the background color also I kept something yellow. So how can we use this particular JS file or this JavaScript object contains the styles in our React component? So that's very simple. Just import styles. So you can see I got a object here, and I will just simply use as styles how we did for the inline styles, right? And here I will use the inside object under that particular styles JS file, right? So let's keep it like style.container. Here styles dot header, and for the other divs I will apply style dot name style. Okay, so I have defined 3 style object for my 3 different HTML elements, like one for the container, header, and name tile, and those objects I have applied over the style properties of this HTML element here. Okay, so now let me go back to the UI, and I can see that style is applied, right? So I just want to show you how it looks when it is rendered, right? So if you will explore this particular component, that you will see whatever the styles I have written, that is applied to the inline style of this element, right? So you can see like font size 3 rem, font weight 700, color dodge blue for the header element, right? So if you go there, we will see that similar styles we applied in form of JavaScript object mapping. Okay, so this is how you can separate your JS based style into a JS files, and you can import it and use it. So this is one of the best approach that industries, many people are using, and it also gives a advantage of using theme kind of stuff over this JS object or modules, that whatever you can say. So it gives a lot of customizable options, so we can control the style properly whenever you are writing with JavaScript. So now we'll learn about the traditional way of using CSS in React. Okay, so how we used to use CSS in HTML, the similar way we will use in React also. So in HTML, basically the popular way that we used to write all the CSS classes in a CSS file, and we use that map that CSS file into our HTML file, and we apply those classes over our HTML elements, right? The similar things we will do. So I have created a similar set of classes for style sheet, the .css file, right? So you can see like style.css. Basically, it is a traditional CSS files which contain a lot of CSS classes. So how can you use a external CSS file in your component, right? So first you have to import it. Import. Just write your file, right? We don't need to import as a module. Just simple import that CSS file. So what you can do, right? Styles dot CSS. Yeah, this is the file, right? Style.css. And once you import, just change this as class name. So in the class name you can write container and simply remove this piece of code. Okay, so I have just changed that code. Here I'm importing a styles.css file, that external CSS file. And once you import the external CSS file, your class name will be available inside the component, right? So how to use the class name? So the class is a reserved word in React, so you cannot use it. So instead of using class, React provide class name as a prop. So there we can specify the class name, CSS class name basically. So let me save this and we'll see what is the update it is coming. Okay, so it's saying can't resolve styles.css in. Okay. So what is the problem with styles.css? Styles.css. Okay. We have to use dot / so that path will be mapped properly, right? So now we can see here, right? So what we did, right, we import this style.css, and the class names will be, CSS class name will be available throughout the component, and we are just using the class name property to map that the class name which we have written inside the external CSS file. Whatever the styles we have written, that is applied here. So the one important thing here you can notice, right? So there we see one common thing is like all those things rendered in HTML as a inline styles. Like under this HTML element, we can see styles, and those styles are printed here completely, right? But in this external CSS file approach, using the class name, we can see it's converted to the class, and it is referring to a external class, CSS class over a file, right? So here you can see that the style.css, and we can see here like font size 3 rem, font width, font weight 700, and color dozer blue. So what it makes, right? The styles are not applied at inline here, but we can use the external CSS file as well. And as like we are writing here the CSS file, you can also use Sass file for writing the dynamic CSS and all. Okay. So we are not going to cover that approach also. So the next approach is CSS modules. So the fourth way of writing stylings in React is that CSS modules way. So basically, the CSS modules comes with create React app command, and CSS modules is basically a CSS file where all styles written separately, right? So as you can see, right, we just learned, right, that external CSS file like styles.css. If you want to convert this particular file into CSS module, then what you have to do, right? So we have to rename it like styles.module.css. So the modules.css is must needed, so that this will be picked by our CSS loader and converted to the corresponding expectations, right? So here is one example of writing CSS modules. So you can see, right, I have a CSS module defines. It has a few classes like container, header, and name tile. It's just a simple CSS file, guys. So how can you use this? So here we need to import, right? So let me remove this first again. Import styles style dot module dot css. Okay, my styles is available now, and in place of this container, what I will have to do, I'll have to write like styles dot container. Okay, let me copy paste this also. So here I have changed this code to use this CSS module, and this styles will provide all that CSS class. There is one differences that we can see while importing a normal CSS file versus the CSS module. So in normal CSS file, we can directly access that class and write it here. But here we are getting an object called styles, and under the styles, whatever the classes that we are getting, those classes will map under this object, right, or under this curly braces, but under the class name. And in normal JS file, while importing as a module, there we used to map those styles under the style. Okay, so let's see the output, how it looks. Sorry. So there is one differences you see, guys, here, right? So in our previous example, while importing an external CSS file, so those classes are directly written. Whatever the class files we have written here in style.css, like let's say container. So we were seeing that container was visible in our source element of this particular control, HTML control, right? But here we see some pretext that been added to my CSS class. Okay, so what are those? Like this styles is something, a particular component hierarchy that we can see, and this header is my particular style, and after that also it is adding some prefix. So it means we can reuse the class name in the same component, but this CSS loader or module loader will give a dynamic class name, right? So basically in render HTML we can notice this creates a unique class name, and this is an advantage also. So these are the different way of writing CSS styles for React. This is all about the session today, guys. I will record one more session for covering those dynamic theme for creating 2-3 sets of CSS for our application. I'll also try to use UI framework like Bootstrap or Material UI with React. Thank you, guys. Please subscribe my YouTube channel Techipurna and follow me on the Instagram Learn Full Stack. If you have any query or suggestion, please comment on the videos. I will definitely try to address those as possible.